All right, guys. So we got a video here about Senator Kennedy. He killed it. Okay, my friends. They were having disputes over whether or not little kids should be exposed to these books. That have very graphic content in it. He went back and forth with this guy. I think this guy Cameron, who has mixed gender or whatever, and he went back and forth with some Democrat about this stuff. Whether or not librarians should be determining whether or not little kids should be having basically pleasures in their books. It's weird. Cue the video.
It's pronounced Mix.
Mix.
Synonymous with LGBTQ identity.
Let's take two books that have been much discussed. The first one is called All Boys Aren't Blue. And I will quote from it.
Can we pause this real quick? Senator Kennedy is by far the funniest senator I have ever seen in my life. He is so funny. I don't know specifically how he does in Louisiana. I don't know how Louisianans feel about him. I don't know his voting stuff, but he's good. He's so funny. And anyway, I'm loving this clip. Keep going.
Put some on and got him on his knees. And I began to slide into him from behind. I pulled out of him and kissed him while he asked me to turn over while he slipped on himself. This was my, and I was struggling to imagine someone inside me. He got on top and slowly, it was the worst pain I think I have ever felt in my life. Eventually, I felt a mix of with the pain, close quote. All Boys Aren't Blue. The second is another much discussed book. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's called Genderqueer. Okay. Let me read an excerpt from that. Quote, I got a new harness today. I can't wait to put it on you. It will fit my favorite perfectly. You're going to look so hot. I can't wait to have your in my mouth. I'm going to give you the of your life. Then I want you inside of me. End quote. Now, Mr. Secretary, what are you asking us to do? Are you suggesting that only librarians should decide whether the two books that I just referenced should be available
Pause
to
it
kids?
real quick. So before the weirdo responds, you guys heard all that. Now, as far as you guys, you may be watching on YouTube, maybe watching on Rumble, you're able to see that obviously a lot of it was blurred out. So there was a lot of graphic stuff in that book. One of which, talked about a harness being tied around someone. Another one mentioned a lot of graphic stuff sexually. And this stuff is in our children's schools, and this stuff is not okay, obviously. And so I'm curious what this guy's going to say. But catch the question that he just asked. Are you saying that librarians should have the authority to determine whether or not this is okay for kids? Obviously, I don't know what this guy's going to say, actually. I haven't seen it up to this point. I saw the first part of it, and I was like, it's Senator Kennedy. He's hilarious. But I haven't seen up to this yet, so I'm curious what he's going to say. But obviously, librarians should not be making this decision. There shouldn't be a decision in the begin with. Okay, genderqueer, all boys aren't blue should not belong anywhere near a public school or any school per se. It shouldn't even exist, but whatever. Anyway, but when they say that we're book banning, what we're really saying is that they shouldn't be available in public schools. In a library, not in the kids section, but in the adult section, sure. In an adult store where you have sexual other stuff, an adult store, sure, let the book be in there. But there are places where books don't belong, and there's places where books do belong. Same with movies, same with graphic material. We have these laws for a reason. So I'm curious what this guy's going to say. You can go ahead and play it again.
Is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay. Tell me what you're saying.
Well, first of all, there's this.
Don't give me a speech. Tell me what you're asking me to do.
With all due respect, Senator, and the words you spoke are disturbing, especially coming out of your mouth is very disturbing. But what I would also tell you that we're not advocating for kids to read porn, to Senator Booker's
What
point.
are you advocating for?
We are advocating for parents, random parents, not to have the ability, under the guise of keeping kids safe, to try and challenge the world view of every single manner on these issues.
You're getting conceptual game.
I'm not getting conceptual.
Well,
I'm saying
yes,
that
you are. Yes, you are. Because I want to know what you're recommending. It sounds to me like what some of you are saying, the librarians should decide who gets to see that book.
I'm saying when individual parents are allowed to make a decision of where that line is, and To Kill a Mockingbird, which involves a rape scene, should that book be pulled from our libraries? I think it becomes a slippery slope.
I think you ought to think
Pause
about
it. Pause it real quick. So a few things there already that really concern me. First of all, he compared To Kill a Mockingbird to genderqueer and All Boys Aren't Blue, which speaks for itself. I'm gonna just let that speak for itself. Anyway, I don't know any serious parents, by the way, that are mad about To Kill a Mockingbird. And by the way, I read To Kill a Mockingbird in high school, so I don't really know if it's being taught to little kindergarten through second graders, but that's where these other books are in, you know. And ultimately, if that means To Kill a Mockingbird is not available to these little kids, so be it. Who cares? I mean, why is it such a big deal that little Johnny has to read To Kill a Mockingbird so that he can have and so that he can have access to All Boys Aren't Blue and genderqueer? Why does that matter? Another thing too, he said, he asked him a very specific question. He said, "Are you what are you proposing?" And notice how homeboy he's not answering his question. If you're there to make a proposal, what are you proposing? You know, and you know why they don't want to say what they're proposing? Because they know it's wrong. They know how much idiocy is part of all this, and it's stupid. Okay, these are little kids. They shouldn't have access to these books. And he was talking about specific parents, random parents. My friend, parents know their child more than you do. And if we take rights from the parents to determine whether or not their kid gets educated on certain things and whether or not their kid attends a certain school, when you start putting restrictions on parents, that's when you become a tyrant, which is exactly what your so-called Democratic Party is against, right? Like, shouldn't we be giving more rights to individuals? You know, shouldn't we give more rights to parents who want control over their kids, which is a good thing, by the way. Parents who share concerns over their kids are not domestic terrorists, okay? They're not criminals. They love their children, and they want what's best for them, okay? Who are you to tell anyone, first of all, what their kid can and can't do, you know? Anyway, let's see what John Kennedy has to say about this, because I can go on all day.
it a little bit more before you come here.
I've thought about,
if
Senator,
you're going to propose something, you ought to be able, in 30 seconds, to be able to explain
Exactly.
what you're
Senator,
asking us to do.
Senator,
Ms. Kelly, what do you
There we go.
understand?
Move on.
Well, let me skip you
Okay.
for a second. Mr. Cameron, tell me what you're proposing.
Wait.
It's pronounced
Wait, pause
Nix.
it. He looked at whoever, I don't know if it's a man or a woman. Look, he looked at Cameron. He said, Mr. that was so funny. And I actually do this all the time on the show. I can't tell nowadays, which is not good. It's not good. Okay, we've gotten to a point to where we can't tell anything. But regardless, that's funny. Okay, that's funny. I know it's not good that happened, but that's funny, okay? So let's see whatever Mix Cameron has to say.
Mix, is that how would you like me to refer to you?
Senator, your definition of is synonymous with LGBTQ identity.
I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you to tell me you read those two excerpts.
Genderqueer.
Do you think that, are you asking that only librarians and not parents have any say and whether
Very
minors
specific
can read
question.
those books. Is that what you're saying?
Genderqueer has never been in my school
not what he
library,
asked.
so it's never been banned.
Well, suppose it was. Should it be up just to the librarian, or should parents have a say?
There should be facilitation of collaboration between
Should
students,
parents have
and
a say?
educators. Parents should be working with students and educators to be
Okay.
making decisions because
All right.
students are.
And who
these-
decides ultimately? The librarian, or do you take a vote, or who takes the vote?
book review committees in the community in my school district.
You want a committee to decide?
There are committees.
Okay. Well, I'm asking you, how do we decide whether the two books that I just referenced should be available in the library? What would you, if you were running things, what would you do?
All Boys Aren't Blue, the scene you mentioned, is about abuse.
I know what it's about.
It's not
What would
erotic.
you do in terms of making the books available? Would you say anybody can see them, or they have to be in a special session?
Students who do not read books like All Boys Aren't Blue cannot learn what is appropriate.
I understand that.
They cannot learn
I understand, but none
about
of you want to
abuse.
answer my question. You come here and you say censorship is bad, and of course it's bad. But the obvious response is, okay, you heard the books we're talking about. Okay, we're not talking about
Right.
Catcher in the Rye. So tell me what you want, who gets to decide. And all I've heard is the librarians. And parents have nothing to do with it. And if that's your response, what planet did you just parachute in from?
Parents, Senator.
Or what country, more appropriately? This is not China.
Parents, Senator, for all due respect, parents absolutely have a say. My parents were immigrants, came to this country. We never checked out books without our parents seeing what books we were reading. They encouraged us to read
Mr.
books.
Secretary, I understand this is good for your politics back home.
It's got nothing to do with
but
my
I'm not-
politics.
no,
My bill
of
is
course
passed.
it does.
My
It
bill is
has
passed.
everything to do with your
I'm here-
politics.
I'm here to-
But you came here with a problem, and I'm trying to understand the solution, and you don't have one.
We solved the solution. we solved the solution
other
in
than to
Illinois.
tell us that we don't agree with you, you're on the wrong. We'll be on the wrong side of history.
We solved the problem in Illinois. We fixed it because we.
Well, there
passed
are
laws
others
that
you
make-
could work on.
Well, that's why I'm
out
here
of
to help.
time.
I'm
Thank you,
gonna
Mr.
help you.
Yeah,
Chairman.
so there's a lot of stuff with that. I mean, ultimately, Kennedy's right. We're not talking about Catcher in the Rye. Okay, we're not talking about To Kill a Mockingbird. We're not talking about Of Mice and Men. We're not talking about Dr. Seuss. Okay, and the Cameron, whoever mixed Cameron, look. We talked about I think it was like maybe 20 episodes ago where this woman who's a teacher went by mixed pronouns or whatever. I don't know. There's no such thing as none of that stuff. I just ignore that stuff and laugh at it. But ultimately, I don't know what. I hope it's a he. I'm just gonna call him Mr. Cameron. Cameron is comparing these books to like those books. Like, who cares? We're not talking about those books. Like, and then Cameron made the excuse was like, well, that was talking about anal like abuse, right? So it wasn't an erotic book. It was describing a situation in which happened to that person. But he's ignoring the whole context of it. That's not what we're arguing. We're not arguing about whether or not it was meant to be erotic or it was describing something. We're saying that content does not belong to a child at all in any context. I don't care what context it is. I don't care if the context was this, and that, and then none of you should be doing it. They shouldn't even be hearing it at all. They're too young to know about that stuff. There's a time and a place and a certain age where, okay, it's appropriate. And that should not be up to the school district. It shouldn't be up to the librarian. It should be up to the parent. Period, point blank. That's it. Okay? And ultimately, if we're going to move forward as a nation, we got to come together on this. And this has got to be, like, my friends, this is foundational. A lot of people, I'll give you guys an example. A lot of people talking about unity in the church. Okay, there's all this division in the church. These Christians are divisive and they don't love one another. They argue all the time. My friends, that's because we disagree with the fundamentals and the foundations of the basic teachings of Christianity all over the place. We can't get it right. And so, same thing goes with our country. If we cannot get simple things right, like kids should not be partaking in or taking in any sexual or inappropriate adult content, if we can't agree on that, my friends, we're not going to be united on anything. That's basic. That's the foundation, is to protect our children. That's we've always done that, and now we're questioning it. Pornhub is getting a lot of flack from people apparently for, you know, maybe having minors in their scenes or not really making it as hard for minors to see their content. And you're seeing a certain group of people be very silent on it. Okay, conservatives and Christians are outspoken about the issues in the porn industry, but I have never seen a well-known, well-articulated mainstream leftist come out and say Pornhub needs to be shut down. As a matter of fact, they'll encourage it. They'll say, find yourself, seek yourself, enjoy your pleasures. Your body, your choice. You know, it doesn't matter what age you are. We need to expose them to this so that they know how to handle it when they're older. That is sick and demonic. And frankly, I think a lot of these people belong in a mental asylum, if not prison. But regardless, that's all I got to say on this issue. Senator Kennedy killed it. For you Louisianans, man, you guys are lucky. You guys are real lucky, because we're going to talk about later on, not this episode, but probably next episode, on someone who's not doing as good of a job here in Alabama. A little spoiler for a future episode there. But Louisiana, you guys got a good senator over there. I appreciate you guys. That'll be the video, guys. Thank you guys for watching. We're going to move on to the next story here. We're going to be talking about IVF in Alabama. So stay tuned.